We live in confusing and tumultuous times. Global events have shaken the world, such as the fall of the Twin Towers, the South Asian tsunami, the war in the Middle East, Hurricane Katrina, the revelations of NSA surveillance and the surrounding government corruption scandals, the financial crisis and the surrounding corrupt banking scandals, the constant fear-mongering over infectious disease such as bird flu and Ebola, and exaggerated or false flagged threats of terrorism. It's all very disorientating and bewildering, and may leave people in an apprehensive state where they feel something is going on, but they don't know what it is. They sense that all of these events are leading up to something, that they are forming part of a wider picture, but as yet they can't see what that picture is. What if a guide to these events was written as far back as 793 AD, predicting these events and what they were leading up to? What if we are living in some kind of predetermined track heading towards an inevitable conclusion? Ragnarok is the word the Vikings gave to their idea of the war that signifies the end of the world. In the Norse holy book known as the Prose Edda, a number of signs are prophesied to occur during the run-up to the final battle. Let's take a look at the Prose Edda, stanza 41 to 43. Buildings painted with violence and death. The sun will turn black in the sky. Treacherous weather shall ravage the earth. 3 roosters will crow warnings, the call of deception, the call of gold, and the call of death. Brother shall fight brother. It will be an age of axe and sword, an age of terrible winds. It is difficult to think of a world event in history that more perfectly suits the prophecy that before the end of days, buildings will be painted with violence and death than 9/11. Whether or not you believe in the official story, or you believe that it is some form of conspiracy or inside job, it is hard to deny that it involved both buildings and violence and death. Is it possible that this line refers to this specific event? The line, "the sun will turn black in the sky," can clearly be interpreted as an astrological event, specifically a total solar eclipse. For the prophecies and Eddas to be considered correct, it requires that a total solar eclipse took place in the correct point on the timeline between the event preceding it, i.e. September the 11th, 2001, and the event after it in 2004. Jean Meus of Belgium, whose special interest is spherical and mathematical astronomy, calculated the figure statistically on an HP 85 microcomputer and found that the mean frequency for total eclipse of the sun is once every 375 years. This means that the likelihood of predicting a total solar eclipse accurately by chance between these 2 years is only 11.25%. There was, in fact, a total solar eclipse on December the 4th, 2002. The Prose Edda predicts that treacherous weather shall ravage the earth, and who can deny that the South Asian tsunami was treacherous weather? It was the first major weather event in a series of weather events that many have put down to global warming. Perhaps the treacherous weather is caused by global warming, perhaps it isn't, but one thing we can be sure of is that it appears that it was clearly predicted by the Viking prophecies. The next part of the prophecy refers to roosters crowing warnings. Obviously these do not refer to literal roosters, and instead were intended to be understood symbolically. Could it be that the crowing alarmist roosters refer to our scaremongering media? If we look at it that way, it seems clear that the 3 warning calls refer to the 3 major scandals of our time. The call of deception refers to NSA surveillance and the surrounding government corruption scandals. The call of gold refers to the financial crisis and the surrounding corrupt banking scandals, and the final call of death refers to the constant fear-mongering over infectious disease such as bird flu and Ebola, and the exaggerated or false flagged threats of terrorism. The next few lines call attention to a time of war, and we can see that we have undeniably seen a war in the Middle East, and that conflict and surrounding conflicts show no real sign of easing up. Hurricane Katrina was also predicted in the years following the start of the conflict in Iraq, with the line, "an age of terrible winds." The following stanzas predict the start of the final apocalyptic battle, which many have interpreted as referring to monumental devastation through the use of weapons of mass destruction, such as nuclear or frequency-based weapons. So where does that leave us? Is it possible that a centuries-old list of unusual events that seem to be occurring now pertains to our own very real future? And can studying this old document lead us to a greater understanding of what's happening today and why? Before I answer these questions, let me apologise for a slight deception I've played on you. The first answer to this question is yes, it's possible, but incredibly unlikely. And the second question's answer is necessarily no. Here is a famous picture of a goblet, or is it two people looking at each other? The important thing in the way that you interpret this image is in the framing, the context under which you view it. If you are told to view the image as if it is a goblet, you will view it as a goblet. If you are told to do the opposite, you will view it that way instead. In psychology, this is called priming. The important part is that whether or not you're primed one way or the other, the image itself doesn't change, only your interpretation of it changes. This method of manipulating interpretations through the use of priming to hide reality is no secret. Is it possible that this technique is being used to hide the truth today? The conspiracy landscape is incredibly complex and baroque. In many ways it resembles a Rorschach test, where any theorist can interpret the raw data to fit their own personal demons and foibles. So next time you're invited to view conspiracy or search for the truth through the perspective of a centuries-old book, ask yourself the question, what is it that they're trying to hide?